From a human rights advocate beginning in her teens, today's guest has a wealth of knowledge on what it means to really commit to something and go the distance. Laurie Levin is the author of Call Me a Woman: On Our Way to Equality and Peace. Call Me a Woman provides real-life experiences, global studies, and insights in the 7 habits of equality that will reshape the world into one where all children have equal opportunities from the beginning to the end of their lives. Laurie is a 100% vegan. She's committed to raising awareness around compassion to animals, advocacy, and following one's heart. So you're in for quite a treat today.
Welcome to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show, where your host, Kathleen Gage, shines the spotlight on vegan and plant-based businesses and entrepreneurs from all walks of life committed to cruelty-free eating, healthy lifestyles, animal compassion, and the environment. Enjoy the show.
So, Laurie, it is so great to have you here because you have quite a background in human rights advocacy, women's rights. You actually, right now, your thing is healthy, happy, equal as it pertains to women. So let's jump in, first of all, and share with us some of your background and how you got involved with the human rights issues and healthy, happy, equal for women.
Oh, I appreciate that, Kathleen. Thank you so much for having me here today. I've really enjoyed getting to know about you and the work that you're doing. It's so important. So thank you for that. I have to say, in terms of healthy, happy, equal, it's just now that I've felt comfortable to put all of my work together. As a corporate executive of 25 years, back in my day, you had to separate family life, social, political life, any kind of work that you were doing outside of that company, you had to separate. So separate. And now I feel really good about every conversation I have. Something around health, well-being, happiness, equality seems to pop up. So I feel like I'm in good company in a time in history where people really want to come together and create a different trajectory for humankind going forward. So I'm excited about that. But in terms of human rights, losing my mom, I have to say, was the major player there. I was 11. She was just 39 when she passed away of stomach cancer. And so that kind of set me on the trajectory of health and wellness and getting better myself because I started developing all those things. So giving up animal protein was really critical in terms of my health journey. About 20 years I started on the journey. 10 years ago, I went from vegetarian to vegan. So I've been vegan, plant-based for about 10 years. And it was also to support animals on the planet. And then after seeing Food Inc. many, many years ago, realized animals. I love animals. And I just knew that I could eat without having to eat an animal or kill and have an animal, die. So all of that. But human rights, I was a civil rights activist when I was a young teenager, feminist later in my teens, I would bet, 16, 17, 18 maybe. Civil rights younger than that even. So it's been a big part of my life and my family. And this journey I've been on really culminated. It began, I suppose, too, that some things occurred in my teens, just becoming more aware. But when I went away to college, my first year, I was one of those 1 of 5 women that is raped on a college campus the first year we go. So that, I feel like I've forever been on this journey. And perhaps that's true of all of us. If you go back in your childhood or teen years, you see why you're doing the work you're doing today. So kind of pulls it all together. But I did write this book. I started 15 years ago. I read a story about a young woman who was raped and murdered. And I just had the saddest feeling. My heart just hurt for a young woman whose life ended in a newspaper about her rape and murder. And I wrote the poem, Call Me a Woman. And after I finished it, I just sat down and wrote it, and after I finished it, I said, this needs to be a book.
And when did it become a book?
Just released April of this year. So it's brand new. Took many years for me to evolve into the person that could say it, though, effectively.
Absolutely. Well, tell us about what Call Me a Woman, what the premise of the book is, because right now, as we're doing this interview and this conversation right now, women's rights are in the forefront, especially with what's happening in Afghanistan. And we sometimes want to sweep things under the carpet, but it just comes back bigger and rears its ugly head, bigger and better, or uglier than before, I should say. And right now we really have to speak out. It's like we were having a conversation before we actually started this interview about how you used to have to separate your professional life from your personal life. And I think more and more, those of us who have been involved in human rights and equal rights, I got involved in gay rights back in my early 20s, and I've been with my wife for 32 years now. And, back in the day, thank you. Back, awesome. Any relationship lasting 32 years nowadays is a big thing. But back in the day, when I first realized that I wasn't the daughter my parents had raised, it was still considered a mental illness. And in some areas it is. So, that was kind of the first start for me. But with your book, Call Me a Woman, what's the whole premise of the book?
Thank you for asking that question. And in light of Afghanistan, I do want to start there. It's so heavy on my heart. Afghanistan is probably, this is from memory in the book. I come out of research, so I do share some research in there, but it's probably the second most dangerous country in the world to be female. So we're going back to how that, 20 years ago, that certainly was the case in Afghanistan, still continues to be today. But here's the interesting thing. The United States is the 10th most dangerous country in the world to be female. So along with India, Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, Yemen, etc., United States is one of the 10 most dangerous countries to be a female. So that's the countries that we're in that group. That's the group that we're in, top 10. So that puts it in perspective as we look at what's happening in Afghanistan. We can say as American women, wow, thank goodness, right? We're in a country where we think that's not happening. Well, in fact, we're not far behind Afghanistan in terms of the amount of deaths per day, per month, per year. So approximately, I just read recently, I have in my book 3 women murdered every day by men in this country. I read the other day, it's 5. So these numbers are not getting better. Right. The point of that is they're not getting better. So Call Me a Woman is a call to action for all of us that care about each other, human rights, and know that the fate of the world really rests with the fate of girls and women on the planet. How goes women, goes the planet. When women lead, negotiate, and legislate, everybody does better. Everybody rises when women rise, okay, and are not subjugated like now they are in Afghanistan, put in the homes. What's going to happen there, it's a toss-up kind of a thing. We don't know. But when women are not at the peace table, they don't last as long. Or women are not in the corporate boardroom, company is not as profitable. Women physicians have better statistics in terms of, healing and people not going back to hospitals, people not dying, women heads of company and so forth. Legislators, we don't legislate twice as much. It's probably about 50% more than men do, and almost 10% more money comes back to that district. So this is not inherent in women. This is a social human construct. That's how we're raising, the difference between how we're raising girls and boys. So the book is to heighten the level of awareness, make sure that we're all aware of what's happening to girls and women. Every country, all parts of the world, there is no country where women and men are equal. And that's a huge detriment for that country, for that individual, of course, and her family, but also for the country, the nation, and the world. So there's habits of inequality. It's a roadmap, really, to how we're all plugging into habits of inequality on a daily basis. And then the habits of equality, 7, that by reading those and becoming aware of those, you can actually plug into equality each and every day and speed up our progress. Because right now we're looking at almost 140 years to close the gender gap. And it's moved out since I wrote the book.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I want to remind people, this is Kathleen Gage, and you're listening to the Vegan Visibility Show. And I'm talking with Laurie Levin, who is just a phenomenal author who does a lot of research on women's rights, human rights. And I'm curious what the connection between animal rights and human rights is? Do you believe that there's a connection? Do you believe that the harm we bring to animals really does reflect on the human condition?
It's all connected. And if you read, I read John Robin's book, a long time ago, Diet for a New America, where he talked about, the way we treat animals. When you look at movies, documentaries about the way Native Americans, if they were, or kill an animal and eat it, they have a ceremony around the animal. It's so different. And they're saying they're sorry for hurting, killing the animal, that they need food. So, I'm not on a soapbox to have people never have, milk or things like it. From a health standpoint, it's one of the best things you can do is to eat more plant food. It saved my life, I believe, in terms of my stomach. My mom was raised on a farm, like a lot of people who have stomach issues and cancers. Salt, meat, dairy. These are the things that cause my stomach to become really unhealthy. 5 meds a day to eat. So how we treat animals, certainly, if you look at that movie and you see, wow, it seems so it's just barbaric. It's just the cruelty where you see the pigs and the cattle. And it reminded me, coming on today, I was reminded of, as a kid, going to see my grandmother in a little small town where my mom was raised. And when those trucks would go by with the pigs and the cat, I would cry in the back seat, and I would kind of cover up because I was kind of feeling embarrassed with my family that I'm sitting back here and tearing up. But it happened every time we drive up there. One of those trucks would go by. And then reading and seeing Food Inc. and reading John Robin's book, I clearly saw the connection. If you look at the most dangerous countries in the world to be female, they're the most warring countries. These things are all connected. The planet, the world, the energy that it takes to mass produce and harm animals the way they do, to have a double cheeseburger or Whopper or whatever it is, the fast food country that we live in today, and that there's no regard for the care and the treatment of the animal prior to that is very painful for me. Always has been, as I stated. And certainly in the last 10 years, I realized that it's just something I didn't want to be a part of anymore.
Right.
But absolutely, yeah.
I realized. Yeah. And what I realize is I'm coming up on 3 years of, initially I identified as a plant-based eater. I didn't want to be considered a vegan. I had a lot of stereotypes in my mind of what a vegan was. And then it was 6 months into it. I was at the grocery store walking by the meat department, and I literally stopped in my tracks, and I had this visceral response to just looking at the meat. And I actually started crying because I felt the pain and the anguish. And in that moment, I realized I am, in fact, a vegan. And so now my whole journey is about raising awareness of the connection between the pain and suffering that people are going through, the pain and suffering animals are going through, the planet. So we've been identifying the problem. I mean, there really is obviously a huge problem because of the wars going on, the pandemic, people's health issues, and, people want to get a surface solution. And I whatever people's feeling around the vaccine is, that's their choice. But the reality is going deeper. I was watching something on YouTube where they were talking about these people that are in the hospital are sorry they didn't get the vaccine, but everybody they interviewed was morbidly obese. They had pre-existing conditions. And I think that we are given part of the information. We're not given all of the information. So from your perspective and the research that you've done, what can we do to start healing the planet, healing people's hearts, healing the way we treat animals? What is your answer to that?
Wow, it's a great question. And it is a personal journey. And I think that more and more we're moving to this. I've always been hopeful. In spite of all the horror stories and all the things we've lived through. I'm 66 years old, so there's been a fair amount. I've always been hopeful, and I feel that people are changing. I've been coaching people 20 years in nutrition, almost 20 years with HeartMath. So if you're not clear on HeartMath are the leading techniques and technology in the world to reduce stress and anxiety. So you think about an animal before it's slaughtered, the nervousness, the anxiety that animal has gone through, particularly if they're in cramped situations, right? They're in those cattle, what do we call, as you see the lanes that they're moving through, they're scared, they're rushed, they're slammed into small areas. The cortisol that cranks in that animal's body then obviously is in the meat as it's right, cut, processed, the whole
Absolutely.
bit. You know how you feel when you're anxious or stressed. That's cortisol kicking up. It's like acid cascading every organ, every cell, every function in the body. So for those of us with stomach digestive issues, that was a big part of what I was experiencing 20 years ago. I was a vice president of a big company, experiencing lots of stress, and in a marriage that was very lonely for me, and raising my wonderful daughter. So there was lots of things going on. But the emotional well-being, that cortisol cranking up, was a real problem in terms of my health. So as you learn the HeartMath techniques, in just seconds to a couple minutes, you begin to rewire the brain so that you respond very positively to life circumstances, regardless of what they are. So HeartMath is really a technology and science, certainly. It's all major universities, major companies around the world, governments. Our Navy SEALs use the HeartMath techniques, our police officers in universities and in schools, elementary schools, so forth and so on. We connect more with the heart. So the technique actually takes you to your heart. You focus on your heart. You breathe a little bit, just a couple breaths in and out of the heart. And then we activate a positive regenerative feeling such as care and appreciation. When we come from that place as a human, as a species, right? As a species, everything changes. Everything changes. You know, how we raise girls and boys, girls to connect more with the heart, share their feelings and right, express their feelings, feel them. And in boys, we tell them not to cry, man up, right? When we disconnect half of the world's population who has the greatest access to resources and leadership positions from their heart, we're a more warring place.
Right.
Great book, Michael Ian Black. I've just read it. He's a comedian actor. Just wrote a book called, I'm going to look it up here real quickly, but Be a Man. Oh, A Better Man. A Better Man. It's a letter to his son. And in that, he says a very important thing. He says, we raise boys to go to war. We go to war because we raise because of the way we raise boys.
Right.
I've just finished the book, so that quote's not fresh in my mind. Disconnected from their hearts. When we connect from the heart, which I've been training people to do for 20 years, you come from compassion and kindness. You're going to rethink the choices you're making. And so that can really impact how you treat the planet, how you take care of how you're going to make all your purchases, how you're going to think about animals, not so callously, I'll just go get all this hamburger meat and chicken and so forth for the barbecue. Maybe I'll go vegetarian. Maybe I'll have all vegetables out tonight for dinner. I mean, the changes that occur are going to be slow, but they will be steady as we live more from the heart.
You know, it's so interesting when you said about how we shop. And now when I go shopping, when I buy any kind of personal care products, I actually will have my phone and I'll look up if the company does animal testing and if the product is vegan. And 3 years ago, if somebody would have told me I was going to do that, I would have said, yeah, right. And it's been a progression. It's like I didn't move into this space that I'm in, and I see myself going further and further into it. And the thing that I work on is not being judgmental of the people, because I'm 67, and so we're pretty close to the same age. And
we made it.
We made it. Well, I can't wait to hit 70 because that's going to be a fun decade. But, I look at how judgmental sometimes we can be of other people. And I have to realize it took me until I was 64 to make the change. And initially it was just about my health. Even though what's really amazing is we do animal rescue. It's like every animal that we have horses, chickens, we have 2 dogs, we have a cat, they're all rescues. And here I was doing animal rescue. I was working within the pet industry and I was eating animals. And the disconnect just boggles my mind that for somebody who thinks I'm as aware as I am, I was so unaware. And first of all, I'd like to know, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best web address or social media handle for them to find you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. For the book, it's a different website, but Laurie Levin, my name, laurielevin.online, LaurieLevin.online. And then for the book, callmeawomanbook.com. Beautiful site company created for the book. So I love for people to
We'll make sure to put that in the show notes because I always like to encourage people to support the people that are on my show because my whole purpose for having both my Vegan Visibility show and the Plant-Based Eating for Health show is to raise awareness. And that's how I do my advocacy. So what are 3 simple steps? I want to step back and I want to talk about HeartMath health. And what does one do? What's a simple protocol that one would do to have a healthier heart and be more compassionate? And then how could you help them with that?
Yes, one of the habits of health, and I've been coaching people for 20 years with that. And then now the last 12 years, I've been working with people who are wanting to get to a healthy weight quickly and safely. So that's 12 years of my work. And I have a growing team of coaches around the country to do just that, because obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, biggest killers in the world today. With HeartMath, it's our emotional well-being. Think about the formula, E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. E plus R equals O, event plus response equals outcome. What if you could respond positively to everything in your life, regardless of what's going on? Because the events have nothing to do with our response, right? An event occurs or circumstances are there. Our response can always be from the heart: compassion, kindness, acceptance, love, forgiveness, joy, happy, right? All of those regenerative feelings. So we learn how to do that, and it doesn't take a long time. And we simply shift our focus from head brain activity to the heart. The heart is an amazing organ. We tend to think of it as just this organ pumping blood. Oh my goodness. The heart, most of the heart cells are neural. The heart makes many decisions on its own. It sends more signal to the brain than the brain sends back down to the heart. This is a very important part of our body that makes it. That's why we say, go with your gut. What's your heart telling you? We've got all these expressions that say clearly we understand that connection, but we don't live it. So when we live from this, the only thing we can do in a stress state is go back to the old stress response. As we reprogram the brain, though, which happens very quickly with HeartMath, we come from a very positive position, so that the R in that formula is positive, and that means our outcomes are positive. So it's a very powerful set of techniques. I teach people anywhere from 4 to 7 to 8 core HeartMath techniques when we work together. The technology is so inexpensive on your phone. You'll actually see the rhythm from heart to brain. And within not a lot of time, you're rewiring those neural pathways to come from the positive standpoint perspective, right? Which changes everything. We've just been wired over time to come from the negative over thousands of years because we were in survival mode. But most of us aren't every day, right? Most of us aren't running from something every day. We're running from the email or the boss or the job or the deadlines, but it's very different. We actually, and so we that wiring is in place, but it's for other reasons today. But we can really rewire that fairly quickly. So test anxiety, social anxieties, these things can go away. I was scared to death to speak in front of people not that many years ago until HeartMath. So all these anxieties can really, we can reduce and eliminate so much of it, and the medications that go along with it, which I'm passionate about.
Absolutely. Well, it's so interesting because it's been nearly 2 months ago that I broke my wrist. I actually was in an outdoor event, the Juneteenth event, as a matter of fact. And one of the vendors did not have the overhang that goes over the vendor space. She didn't have it secured. A gust of wind came up, literally lifted this thing up and slammed me in the back of the head. And I fell face first onto the cement. I mean, it was a pretty traumatic experience. And I got taken in an ambulance to the hospital and to emergency, and they put a cast on me, a temporary cast. They did a brain scan to see if I might have a concussion or brain bleed. But what was interesting is, as I went through the whole process, and I had to have surgery to have a plate put in, and I looked at the whole experience. I tried to remove myself from it to observe from an observer's point of view. And every single health professional said, "What medications are you on?" I said, "I'm not." Are you on heart thinners?" I said, or blood thinners? I said, "No, I'm not." And they said, "That's not normal." And I said, "No, it's actually normal to not be on medication, but we've normalized being ill." I said, it's shocking how many of you think that I should be on medication. Right. And, especially at my age, they were saying a woman your age, and it's like a woman my age should be healthy and vibrant. And we've been so conditioned to believe that that's an oddity. And so with what you do, what would you say is one simple strategy besides people reaching out to you and going through the heart health process and getting the app and doing all of that, getting your book? I encourage people to get the book, Call Me a Woman. We'll put the link to Amazon so that people can get that, or also your website. But what's one simple strategy that people can put into practice right now, right here, right now, as they're listening and watching?
Would it be possible to give two?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to give you two because one's really easy. Breakfast is really critical. So breakfast means break the fast. So getting up and having breakfast, well, I might expand on it a little bit, is really key. Really key. So that morning time is really key. What we do, it's the foundation of our day. Think about it. You want to really support the day, hours, right? And how you move through your day, as well as sleep. So first thing in the morning, as you get up within 30 to 60 minutes, have a really good plant-based diet. I just love berries and oatmeal and all the different kinds. I love Irish oats. I love oatmeal and berries, or things that are plant-based for breakfast. It's a great way to fuel the body energetically first thing in the morning. Spend some time then. I want to fuel my body both emotionally and nutritionally, right? Well, so that's what I do. I protect that morning time and I eat my healthy breakfast. I do my heart lock-in for 10 minutes every morning, because I do not trust myself out in the world. I will get judgmental, and I've rewired so much of that. But when you're wired for that from birth,
right?
Well, not from birth, I learned it. It's tough. It's tough not to. You'll get drawn back into it with this culture that we live in, particular. So starting that morning out, and then right before you go to sleep, another time with the heart where you're appreciating. Spending a good 3 to 5 minutes minimally. Now you're going to sleep soundly, because we've got to protect sleep, right? That's so important for our heart health, our appetite, our weight. All of that is so important. We allow the brain, it goes into, my gosh, what it goes in, and all the work it does while we're sleeping. It's so important. And then, set that tone for sleep and sleep well, and then set the tone for the day in the morning with that fuel the body well, emotionally and nutritionally. Two things I just like to share there. Really important. And then eat every 2 to 3 hours. Fuel that body, mostly plant food to all plant food every 2 to 3 hours.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you feel about the intermittent fasting that a lot of people are doing, and not for days on end, but for a period of time to give our body a break?
Yeah, I think that's fine to do. It's not sustainable. So when people do it for weight loss, I coach so many people that have done it for weight loss,
right?
Unsustainable, and they'll plateau at a certain point. There's no habits of health that they're learning, so they go right back to the old ways. So detox for intermittent fasting, things like that, whatever, for fasting, if you feel that that's good to do, that's fine. I'm not going to challenge that at all. It's just unsustainable. Right. So my coaching is all about learning the habits of health. And if you put the habits of health in, they will just naturally crowd out the habits of disease. Just like putting in the habits of equality, you'll crowd out habits of inequality. That's how we move, like you said. I did this, then I did this, then I did this, because your body's changing, and you won't recognize yourself a week later when you start to live the habits of health or the habits of equality.
Absolutely.
You'll see your life really unfold quite differently.
Well, it's so interesting, because when I started plant-based eating, I did it for inflammation. And as I've had my wrist break and I'm doing physical therapy, I've noticed that there are certain indications that I need to really clean a few things up, like salt happens to be my Achilles heel, but I need to clean a few things up because I'm feeling a little bit of inflammation. But I started for inflammation. I'd given up on diets because I've been a yo-yo dieter all my life. And I thought, okay, I'm meant to be heavy. That's just the way it is. I was buying into the stereotype that I had been taught. And what was amazing is I didn't do this as a diet, and I actually saw the weight literally melt off me. I initially, in about 3 months, I dropped 38 pounds, and I was like, wow. And I had to really check myself for not getting attached to the scale, because I think we've been so conditioned on certain behaviors that, everything is attached to an outward indicator instead of going inward. And I love your recommendation of the morning protocol, because I know for me, when I take time in the morning, I do yoga, I do stretching, I do meditation, I'll do some inspirational reading, and then I go on a morning run. This morning I went on a 2.5 mile run. And I have to say that as I was running, I was thinking of something I heard many years ago. What you do in private, you will be rewarded for in public. And I kept repeating that mantra. What you do in private, you will be rewarded for in public. And so often we have a public face and then we have a private face instead of becoming a whole person, which is more the holistic healing that the world needs to go through. So, Laurie, this has been delightful. And I want to remind people again to definitely leave a review on this interview. This is Kathleen Gage with Vegan Visibility. I've been talking with Laurie Levin, who is the author of Call Me a Woman. And if you really want to heal your heart, get in touch with Laurie because she can work with you on the HeartMath process and teach you how to really heal your heart so that you can be more calm in the world, you can be more joyful, and you can actually do your own advocacy work by the mere fact of how you live your life. So, Laurie, in closing, what are your final thoughts for people?
Beautifully said, my dear. I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really sense the passion that you live your life, and it shows. You absolutely are just beautiful inside and out. I can feel that wonderful energy. So thank you for your great work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And to everybody out there, I encourage you, live consciously, be kind to the animals, to the planet, and especially to yourself. This is Kathleen Gage with Vegan Visibility, wishing you a great day, a great evening, a great morning, wherever you are in the world.
You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when the next episode is live. And we always appreciate reviews. Join us next time for more inspiration, education, and motivation to build your business one cruelty-free and healthy person at a time.